Thank you for listening to the Gateway to the Rockies podcast from Visit Aurora, from the rafters of the Stanley Marketplace. This is the show dedicated to telling the stories of Aurora, Colorado. Hi there, I'm Dave, the Director of Marketing for Visit Aurora. If you've ever driven down Havana Street and thought, I should really try that place, well, imagine trying all of them. Our guest today is Antony Bruno, a longtime Colorado writer and journalist whose work has appeared in Westward and beyond. He did exactly that. Through his project, Cooked and Uncooked, Antony set out to visit all of the restaurants along Aurora's iconic Havana Street corridor, a 4-mile stretch that might just be one of the most diverse culinary destinations in the entire nation. What started as a dining challenge became something much bigger, a cultural deep dive into the immigrant stories, family traditions, and entrepreneurial grit that makes Aurora's food scene so dynamic. Antony, thank you for taking the time today. Great to see you.
Thank you very much for having me. It's great to be here.
Firstly, you're not just a guy who likes food. You are a graduate of the Cook Street School of Culinary Arts. Can you talk about that journey and how it connected to your journalism career?
That journey in terms of the Havana Street journey or my culinary school journey?
Just in general, going from culinary school into becoming a journalist.
Yeah, so I've been a journalist my whole career. That's what I've been my whole, working life, basically. And, lately, in the last couple of years, it's, cooking's always been something that I've been interested in doing personally. And, being someone who enjoys food, I don't like using the word foodie. It's a little, I don't think we've really nailed down the right word for it. Yeah, that still seems to be an ongoing debate. But yeah, this has been something I've always been interested in. And at some point, maybe it was just sort of an overall dissatisfaction with some of the other work I was doing in more of the corporate content marketing space, where I was trying to seek out opportunities to write about things that were more personally interesting to me. And also at the same time, as a hobby, cooking and wanting to be better at it and understand, when I made mistakes, how to fix them and why they were mistakes. And so I had an opportunity to go to the Cook Street School. They have a night program there that really fit in great with my with my lifestyle, with my working during the day and doing that at night. And so I did it, and then in the course of doing that, it sort of informed a lot of my understanding and knowledge about not just cooking, the technique and ingredients, but also how chefs talk and think and whatnot. And it really opened the doors to my wanting to pull that string a little bit further. And that's when I started doing freelance writing on the side. And basically once I graduated, that own, moonlighting hobby, not hobby, but, effort.
Passion, yeah.
Yeah, passion.
On your website, very succinctly, you say, for 30 years, I've written about the intersection of technology and culture. For the next 30, I'm writing about food, wine, travel, and adventure. Right. Was there a moment for you that led to this, for lack of a other corporate term, a paradigm shift in your chapter?
I'm not that guy that has those big lightning bolt moments. I'm sort of dense and maybe takes me a while to kind of figure things out, but it's usually more of a slow burn. And I sort of dip my toes in lots of different things and sort of, test out, okay, is this cool? Do I like this? Do I like these people? Is this place interesting? That kind of thing. And so, I just do it slowly and sort of methodically, and as the feedback loop, just kind of paying attention to the results. Am I enjoying writing about? Are people responding to what I'm writing, both readers and editors? Am I getting more work for it? Is this a big effort, or is it just sort of, are the green lights just appearing? And in the food writing space, the green lights were very much just sort of appearing. So I'm like, okay, and I was enjoying it. Like I was finding the writing effortless and enjoyable. For those people who are, professional writers, we know that there's often a sort of a procrastination block to actually sitting down and doing the work. And in many cases that didn't appear. So these are things that I've learned to pay attention to and follow as they come up. And that was the kind of the case here. So yeah, no big like, oh, this is the thing. It's more like, hey, you know what? I actually enjoy this and I'm not, hating every minute of it. So maybe I should do.
Focusing in on it a little bit, are there certain angles or certain stories that you're drawn to?
That's a great question. Yeah, I initially going into it, I was kind of hoping to do more about actual cooking and cooking instruction and maybe recipes and I'd love to write a cookbook someday. And, helping people cook for themselves is sort of my passion coming into it. But as I started, talking to the folks in the hospitality industry and the restaurants at every level, it's just like those were people I just respected a lot. Like I have a background in doing startup and entrepreneurial journalism. I was a corporate communications director for a couple of startups. I covered startups in my tech background. I like working with people like that where it's their passion, it's their vision, and they're executing it directly, as opposed to, some of the larger, more corporate organizations where you're just kind of dealing with someone who's collecting a salary, right? And so that would be it. It was like, people who have something to say, they're saying it with food. And generally there's lots of different ways that could be manifested, but like in the Havana Street series in particular, there was another additional layer of just like a sharing of a culture and sharing of something more than just, here, give me money, I give you, right? There was a lot more going on.
Yeah, before you embarked on this project, how familiar were you with the Aurora dining scene and on Havana Street in particular?
Yeah, I was aware of it. I had been to, some of the restaurants before, and it was a thing that I was interested in doing. In fact, it was a couple of years ago, I had put together like a little doc for the family, me, my wife, my daughter, like, okay, here's sort of our summer list, right?
Yeah.
And one of them was explore Havana Street. And I maybe went to 3, you know what I mean? And so when this opportunity came about, I was like, perfect. I get to not only have an excuse to do it, I can get paid to do it,
right?
And I have an outlet to express myself after doing it, right? And so it really hit all the buttons.
Can you walk us through the moment where you realized like this wouldn't just be a food crawl, but a deeper cultural exploration?
Yes, I think that there's 2 different angles there. I think the first one was when I visited. It was early on in the process, the Watan Bakery. And I think it might have been, I don't know, my 7th. It was in the first 10 anyway. And, I went in and it was, the place was, having their floors redone. And I was, didn't, really know what I was doing. I just kind of walked up and said, what's good? And they said this, and I can't remember the name of the dish now, obviously, but, we went through the process. Then I saw there was a guy there who seemed to be the owner. So I introduced myself and asked if I could ask him some questions, and we sat down. It was a difficult conversation because language barriers is, one of the challenges of what makes it worthwhile doing so. And as I was leaving, I was literally getting ready to leave, and I had noticed he had all these posters on the wall regarding different, refugee organizations from Afghanistan. And one of them was a poster of a small child in a little ratty sweater, looking up with, bright, beautiful eyes, and it was an affecting image of a refugee child, and it was as a campaign, I'm sure it got a lot of attention. Anyway, long story short, it turns out that photo was of him. That was him as a child.
Wow.
And I'm talking to him now here in Aurora, Colorado, having come from wherever he was in Afghanistan or Pakistan, or I forget exactly where the refugee camp was, but like he was a refugee from Afghanistan and made his way here. And that sort of snapped a lot of things into place for me right there. It's like, this was not just a place where he was, I feel like Watan means, I think, homeland, right? And so, yeah, that's more than just a branding thing at that point, right? That's like, okay, there's a lot more happening that should be communicated. That would be that moment.
The businesses that you're visiting, their story is embedded in who they are. This isn't just a business endeavor. This is part of the fabric of who they are as people.
Absolutely. I mean, I in past writing, I've kind of played with this idea of what I like to call communion. Like communion is, I'm getting past the Catholic, connotation of it, but it really means that same thing. It's like you're eating something, and in experiencing that food, there's so much more that comes with it, right? You're tasting a taste of place. You are tasting history. You're tasting family, right? Like it's a way of communicating all these things that you had growing up or wherever you were with another person. And that other person can either be someone who grew up in that same area who misses that taste of home, or it could be someone who has never had it before. But the message that experiencing that food brings with, here's where I'm from, here's who I am, here's my history, here's my culture, is communicated immediately in one bite, and far more than you can do in, thousands of words of my writing. You know what I'm saying? And so trying to respect that was a big part of what.
Are there certain culinary traditions you encountered along the way, or dishes that were surprising to you?
Dishes that were surprising. There was a lot of dishes that was new to me. I don't know that surprising would be the way that I would put it. There was, a lot of food, a lot of cuisines that I had wanted to learn more about, that I use this as an opportunity to finally, deep dive into, one of which being Korean cuisine. Southern part of Havana is very little dense, basic. And so maybe the surprising part there would be that I saw, and like, we talk about the 4-mile stretch of Havana. Well, like in less than a mile, there's just with Havana Street addresses, there's like 8 to 10 Korean restaurants, more if you look at the periphery that wasn't included in the series.
Yeah.
And I was kind of thinking, how can all these places sort of, I mean, that seems like a lot of really close by competition but it really shouldn't have been that surprising at all when you think about it. I mean, there's Little Italy, there's Chinatown, there's Koreatown. This is how these regions operate. So seeing like the nuanced difference, just like, hey, I'm going to go to Korean barbecue and now I'm having Korean food. Like, no, you go to 4 different Korean barbecues and each of them have like the side dish array called banchan. Those are all different. They serve the same purpose, but they have their own little nuances. So that again, it wasn't necessarily surprising, but it definitely was illuminating, I guess I would say, in terms of what I might consider to be like a one-off. Hey, let's have, quote, Korean food tonight. There's no just one expression of that,
right?
And getting the opportunity to see those different nuances was, again, illuminating.
Were there any moments where you felt out of your comfort zone, either with a dish or within a restaurant environment? And if so, did those experiences teach anything?
Finding ways to get outside of my comfort zone was the point of the entire piece, right? Nice. That was the idea. Like, I didn't do a lot of prior research. I just rolled in there and was like, okay, what am I doing? Like, I have no idea. So yes, I mean, there's too many to count. Like, the Korean barbecues, well, it seems pretty straightforward. You just look at that menu, you're like, wow, there's a lot of choices. A lot of places you would walk into, like one place in particular I thought was really fun was, trying to remember the name now. I think it's called Hangwang Jokobal, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. They have a number of different dishes, but one of their main selling points is they serve a whole pig trotter, which is like a pig foot, right? But not just the foot, that's like a whole, foreleg, I guess. And, everything in there is in Korean. The woman there speaks no English, and which is all totally fine. It just was, basically when I ordered the dish, which was meant to be shared by at least 2 to 4 people, and I'm doing that plus another dish on top of it to kind of try everything. She looked at me like I was a maniac. Like, who is this person who's a cool? He has no idea what he's doing. So yeah, that was, I was definitely out of my element there, but that was, again, the point. And, there's other places I would walk into, some of the 1 or 2 newer Colombian restaurants. They're like bar restaurant. One was a bar restaurant, one was an actual restaurant. Bar restaurant, I walked in, and the people would look at me like, and the first word would be like, Colombian? I'm like, nope. But I'm sitting here, right, let's go. And again, Google translates a wonderful convenience to kind of get through some of those things. But there's this more, I would say well over half of the restaurants I visited were places that were a little bit outside of the quote norm. And again, that was the entire point, was to kind of do that and bring back my reflections. So hopefully others can read some of those stories and feel a little less intimidated to go and try something really amazing.
How did the project overall kind of affect the way that you think about food and more broadly the current state of the dining industry?
There was one moment, and I would say this is more personal to myself. It's like sort of how it changed my approach to things in general forever, which was it's a taco place called Taqueria Corona, and I went on about an off time. It was like 2:30 or 3, not a big busy time for most restaurants. And I walked in. So first of all, I walked to the door and you can't see inside. It's all these, and this is very normal along Havana Street. They have all these, the windows have these like pictures of food and other things in it, so you really can't tell what you're walking in. I walked in and the place was completely empty, and my initial trepidation wasn't so much about the food, but it was more as a journalist, like, okay, what am I going to write about? Like that's one thing that people don't realize. Like, you're doing this, each one of these places is going to have its own story. Yeah, I've got like 800 words to fill. What am I going to say? Right. And again, that becomes, something that's a concern in the back of the head. But anyway, I sat down, I wasn't expecting much, ordered like 4 tacos, $2.50 a piece. So why not? And I was blown away. It was like, these are some of the best tacos I've ever had. And so it made me realize that like, this is something new and different and unfamiliar for me. But as I was there and I'm watching the pickup orders taken and the phone ringing with more orders coming in, this is other people's day-to-day weeknight dinner.
Yeah.
So I didn't discover anything. I just walked in a door. I just, you know what I mean? And so trying to, get past the whole, oh, let's check it out on social. Let's look at the Google reviews, all the things that we do these days to sort of guarantee, so to speak, our best chance at a pleasurable, dining experience is sort of thrown out the window. It's like, you know what, just open the door, order something and try it for yourself and draw your own conclusions, right? To forget, stop following that digital herd. I would say that was the moment where I realized this is what the series needs to be focused on. It is breaking past the habits that we've developed as diners and kind of doing the exact opposite, which is, seek out places that you're afraid might be disappointing, because that's the only way you really will be pleasantly surprised.
That's a powerful takeaway, because I know I fall into that trap all the time of, how do I guarantee a good experience? But what you're really saying is, how do I guarantee a predictable experience? And that's not a good way to kind of approach.
I had this thing. This is where I'm going to get off. I didn't really talk about this yet in the series, but as a writer and as someone following the space, I really think that all the digital platforms that's been created over the years, decades now, we've kind of gotten used to a certain way of doing things, a certain way of eating, a certain way of following and finding things. And there's been a lot of convenience added to it, but it's created, I think, a divide between the people making and serving the food and the people eating the food. And a perfect example is like in reviews. Okay, maybe taking away the vanity for a second, but like you go to a nice restaurant, you eat, maybe something didn't go exactly the way you wanted, you leave, and then you write a bad review on Google. That's not what would be a better way to do it would be to actually say something when you're there. Say, hey, you know what, this is overdone or whatever. These restaurants are designed to make you happy, right? Leave. So, but we've lost the ability to communicate with the people in person at the restaurant. It goes back to even the reservations. I mean, the idea of calling a restaurant, making a reservation is insane, it feels like, because I know that most places that are used to dealing with open table, they'll lose your reservation if you call them sometimes, right? You have to do it via the platform, but that's already a step removed from that personal relationship between the restaurateur and the diner. And so I don't have, it's not, as you can tell, very thought out right now, but there's a little bit of something lost in all the digital platforms that I think we should be aware of and take steps when we can to try to create that close connection. Again, one of them is just driving by a place, being curious, and walking inside with no knowledge whatsoever.
I'm glad you've gone down this road a little bit, because I was really curious about this aspect of your work. It's one thing to review a faceless corporate chain. It's another to write about a family business, knowing you have the potential to influence that business, both positively and potentially negatively. I mean, you're not there to write a commercial for the business. You're there to give an honest accounting. But how do you approach that in your writing, and is it a consideration, particularly if you don't have an A+ experience?
Great question. So these, for Havana in particular, I did not approach these as reviews or critic, or like I wasn't a food critic.
Right.
For a couple of reasons. First and foremost, I'm unfamiliar with a lot of this cuisine, and I don't feel I have the authority to say whether it's good or bad. I don't know if this is representing that cuisine or not. If I've never
good self-awareness, by the way.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Like I'm like, when that was first brought to me as a series, I briefly considered not doing it, because it's like, I'm a 55-year-old white dude from Centennial suburbs. Like, I don't want to come in there and be like the guy passing judgment on, someone's, cuisine from, whatever country they're from. That's not a position I want to be in, nor should I be in, right? Nor should many other people like me. So that wasn't the point. The point was more, if you're not familiar with this, and unless you're there's a lot of people that, whether they're, whatever their background might be, may not be familiar with this particular or that particular or that other particular cuisine. For me, a lot of it's somewhat new. It was more, just reporting back with, here's what it is. If you come here, here's what you will expect. You can go and decide if you like it or not. And if this sounds interesting, maybe that's why you'll go. But it's not going to be like, I like this, I didn't like this. In some cases, I did get a little gushy around the food, because for each place, the way I would approach it, I would just go in, take a bunch of notes, write down all my thoughts and observations, usually let it sit a day. And then whichever one of those stuck with me the most, like the next day or two afterwards, that would be what I focused. The other things I could have focused on, but this was the one I thought told the best singular story about that particular place. So it changed from place to place, basically.
Were there restaurants that were particularly difficult to break into? I mean, you mentioned language barriers, or unfamiliar menus, and you mentioned using Google Translate to navigate that. But were there other methods of saying, okay, I don't exactly know what I'm in for here, but I'm going to do the best I can?
It's for me, like I'm used to that, right? As a reporter, like, I mean, my first job as a reporter was up in Summit County, where I had to stand on the side of the street and do the man on the street interview, kind of like interviewing turret,
Yeah.
So like that's sort of that barrier is broken for me forever.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem just walking in and going, okay, hey, but I did want to try to do it a little bit with more, I guess, grace in this case, because walking in, taking pictures, and writing notes, and me walk, I mean, that could be really intimidating for people, not knowing who I am. A lot of them never heard of Westward. They have no idea what I'm talking about. So it was just a matter of handling that appropriately in each case, and it was very much a case by case basis. Some people were very excited, other people didn't want anything to do with me.
Yeah,
and other times I just never got a chance to talk with anybody. Sometimes it was just no contact at all, just because they weren't there or whatever.
So I get the impression that they didn't know you were coming. This was
sometimes they did,
okay.
Sometimes they didn't. Like in some cases, I tried. If I had, there were some folks like Chance, from Mount Havana, did a really great job of providing me with content information with some of the owners. When I would try to reach out to them beforehand, try to do an interview first and then go and experience it. I mean, each situation was a little bit different. So in some cases, they knew I was coming. I didn't want them to do anything special for me.
Right. You want it to be an authentic experience.
Totally. So there was that. And sometimes, that had its own levels of success and failure as well. But, overall, I think I got the real deal, But yeah, actually talking to them and getting their stories when I could was great. But when I couldn't, it was fine, because, again, they're telling their stories in other ways.
This goes against what you just recently said about not reviewing the food. So I'm not going to ask you to list your favorites, but are there a couple of standouts that maybe just blew you away?
I've become more comfortable talking about that. At first I would try to deflect that question. I didn't want those not mentioned to feel left out. But I mean, I went to almost 50 places, so what are you going to do, right? But yeah, I would say the standouts to me, Nile Ethiopian was, just absolutely stunning. I mean, I cannot wait to go back there. The katsu ramen, the black garlic tonkatsu ramen was incredible. And I'm saying that as someone who had ramen for the first time in Japan. Like, that was my first ramen experience, was in Japan, and obviously I love it. I have it here now, but that was standout. Let's see here. Start to blank when it happened. The Korean, Seoul Korean barbecue and hot pot, both the Korean barbecue side and the hot pot side, are both equally highly recommend, particularly for people maybe not experiencing either of those themselves. It's both. It feels both authentic for the experience, as well as a great first entry point novice. Right. There was that newly opened Chef Liu's, I think is how it's pronounced. That we went there, I think, literally the night they opened.
Okay.
And that was really great. I really enjoyed that quite. I know I'm forgetting some. You know what I mean? There were so many that were great. But Tofu Story. Yeah, got to bring up Tofu Story. Like, it was fun because I got the chance to go in and be in the room while they were making the tofu, which was pretty cool. But yeah, there's I can't think of any place in the state, very few places even in the country, where you go and they actually make the tofu fresh that they serve in the restaurant. That's pretty. Yeah. So that was another one. I'm going to stop now, but like that, those are some of the bigger ones that really stand out.
Go back and read the series and you can see all the highlights.
Exactly.
Having a culinary education along with your journalism expertise, those are unique skill sets, but I imagine in some ways those worlds kind of inform the approach to the other, I would imagine, crafting a menu, crafting a story, the ingredients that go into storytelling.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be cute here a little bit,
I
but
get it.
did you see where those worlds kind of intersected with each other?
I use that analogy all the time, actually. The whole, good ingredients make for a better dish. That same thing. If you have a good interview, like your podcast, you have a good person that you're speaking to, it makes the podcast better. If I interview
absolutely
somebody, it makes the story better. If the food's good, it makes the food. So all of those things, they absolutely are the same. And I would say that I may not have made that analogy either as directly or as well had I not, gone through culinary school, because, one of the things like in culinary school, what I learned is that when you look at a group of ingredients, you don't just look at them as individual, piece of steak and a piece of lettuce, potato. You look at it as protein, veg, starch, and that allows you to sort of become more flexible in your recipe development. It's like, okay, I don't have a potato, but I do have pasta. You know what I mean? So and so the same thing applies when I'm doing these stories. Okay, I know the components of what the stories of each of these places need to be. Each place I'm visiting is a little bit different, but they still have the same components. What does the place look like? What does the food serve? Who are the people? These are all components of a story that just change, and different parts of that component might be the lead, the supporting player to plays.
In your writing, you challenge people to be adventurous diners. Something I've been guilty of, not always taking risks that I probably should have. Do you have any practical tips that you would give someone who's hesitant to try unfamiliar foods?
Yeah, this is gonna sound weird. It's actually a psychology thing, but it's called seek disappointment.
Okay.
So this applies to well beyond just food. Okay, I'm not gonna get all psychoanalysis. Like anything, a lot of times we find ways to avoid being disappointed. Whether we're looking for a job and we're afraid of being rejected, or whatever it is. This is a normal human experience, and so when you have that hesitation to try, I don't know enough about this place. It's empty inside. There's no really any reviews. You feel that sort of magnetic push, the reverse magnetic thing that makes you not want to go in there. When you feel that, reverse that and lean into it. You're like, no, I'm just going to try, because, the way I say it is that we all generally eat, 3, right? And as long as it's not like prohibitively expensive to try something, just go and try it. And now you don't like it, or if it's just okay, well, now you know, and you don't have to, that itch is going to be gone from your head forever, and you can go about your life. But if it's a surprising, pleasurable experience, now you've discovered something that you would have known before. And so it's the knowledge one way or another that becomes goal, rather than the one meal on that one time, one day.
That's a great approach. I'm going to adopt that, I think.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, it literally changed me. Yeah. Like when I'm driving around now, like my eyes are focused differently. Like I don't mean to make, bad aspirations on chain restaurants and whatnot, but I kind of don't see them anymore. Yeah. Like my eyes are naturally focused to the place that's not that. And given the opportunity, I'm going to go to the non-chain, never heard of place before. I'm going to go to, the one that I have heard of before. And one is safe and familiar, the other is not. But I'm always going to try the not every single time, forever. Like it's just how my mind has been changed by this experience. And then that's one of the reasons why I wanted to emphasize that closing piece. And even though everyone just wanted me to list off all the places I liked best, right, was that it's not the point.
No.
So anyway, I hope you embrace it. It is. No, it's really worthwhile. Surprise.
It is about the exploration of culture, going outside of your comfort zone and discovering what is truly one of the most unique culinary communities in the state. But you can't do that unless you're willing to, like you said, lean into the possibility of disappointment.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing about Havana Street, which is a little like a lot of people, if they're hearing this, they may not realize that it's like, this isn't some street you just like kind of walk down.
No.
And like say, oh, let's try that place. Like these are places that are kind of hidden behind like a tire shop.
Yeah.
You have to kind of know where you're going. And when you so that's a challenge as well. And that's why I hope the series, like since it's all kind of there for the reading, that you could, pick one and then, put in the Google Maps, go, because like there are places that I had problems finding.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes the signage is in a different language.
Or not even existent.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So
recently, the Colorado Tourism Office announced a partnership with Michelin, which will allow Aurora restaurants to be reviewed and possibly awarded with Michelin recognition. Mm-hmm. To what degree do you think that will lift the culinary profile of Aurora, if at all?
I think it'll definitely help. I mean, I wrote a story before the announcement that looked at, how the restaurants that were covered in the initial inspection period, how they felt that attention impacted them. And all of them, 201, said it was positive, brought more attention. People basically read, not just people here in Colorado, but those visiting will look to the Michelin Guide as sort of their source of inspiration of where to go, which again is a little bit against the point of what I'm trying to say, but that's fine, in terms of just like discovery, but I get it. And so, yeah, it will shed a spotlight on some things. And the thing about Michelin, what they're trying to do now, it seems, is to get away from a Michelin recognized restaurant only be, super hard to get into months in advance reservation, multi-course tasting places that get the stars and really start to expand that. I mean, I think in 2024, they gave a star to a taco stand in Mexico City. So they're trying to be a little bit more inclusive. And I think that is going to really not only benefit Aurora restaurants, but I wrote a piece that actually came out talking today that sort of looks at the idea that maybe Michelin needs Aurora almost than Aurora needs Michelin, because that's not 100% true, but it's a nice little, fun writing, quip. But basically, yeah, if Michelin's trying to show that they are incorporating all cuisine, all formats of dining, that coming to Aurora and particularly Havana Street, I think really leans into that quite a bit. And I think there are a number of restaurants along Havana, some of which I mentioned earlier, that will likely get a recognition. I'm not saying a star necessarily, but a bib gourmand or just recommended. All those things are noted by the Michelin followers and, hopefully will reflect well on the overall.
What's on the horizon for you after the Eat Up Havana? Are there other corridors or communities you're curious to explore through food and storytelling?
Well, right now I'm trying to drop the 10 pounds I gained over the course of the last year, so we'll see how that goes. But no, we are talking about potentially looking at another series. I don't know that I will do another corridor series right off the bat. We're bouncing some ideas around about what might be another way to do it, because I think having a weekly installment of something around a common theme, I think readers have responded really well to that. And I think when you look back at it as a whole, it elevates anyone, becomes greater than the sum of its parts, basically. Yeah. And personally, I enjoy doing it. But, nothing new announced yet. But right now, I'm just finding fun stories and fun people doing it, food, and kind of go.
Antony, thank you for shining a light not only on the businesses, but the culture and the stories here in Aurora. It's not going unnoticed. It's super valuable, and grateful for your contribution to the story of Aurora.
Hey, thanks for having me. And, I'm always happy to eat where we're sent.
Nice. That was Antony Bruno, veteran storyteller, writer, editor, and culinary expert. Find him at antonybruno.com and follow his journey on Instagram at CookedUncooked. Thank you for listening to the Gateway to the Rockies podcast. Visit Aurora is the official destination marketing organization for the city of Aurora, Colorado, and acts as the primary liaison between meeting planners and hotel partners. As Aurora's Convention and Visitors Bureau, Visit Aurora's mission is grounded in showcasing Aurora as a premier destination for meetings, business, and leisure travel. Visit Aurora represents more than 75 plus hotel properties with 13,500 plus guest rooms and more than 1 million square feet of meeting space, including Colorado's largest resort, Gaylord Rockies Resort and Convention Center. As Colorado's third largest city, Aurora is located minutes away from Denver International Airport and showcases mountain views, memorable meeting spaces, and 250 plus international eateries that offer a unique experience for each and every visitor. As the gateway to the Rockies, Visit Aurora's role in the local community goes beyond marketing the city as a destination. The Visit Aurora team is here to assist you with your Colorado visit, from facilitating your meeting, event, or convention to helping you discover local flavor and attractions. Go beyond the boardroom in Aurora, Colorado. For more, visit us at visitaurora.com.